The July 11th service at the Srebrenica Memorial Garden was meant to be silent and reverent. Candles, chrysanthemums, the low murmur of prayer in 3 languages. But as the first notes of the lament drifted across the lawns of Whitehall Court, observers noticed a single figure struggling to maintain royal composure. The Duchess of Edinburgh, Sophie, so often hailed as the steady North Star of the working Windsors, pressed the corner of her gloved hand to her cheek and exhaled. One shutter click from the press pen captured a tear in mid-fall. By the time that image reached newsrooms, an entire backstory of raw grief, geopolitical memory, and royal duty was already poised to ignite. An invitation hand-delivered by history. 3 weeks earlier, a discreet courier from the Foreign, Commonwealth, and Development Office delivered a buff folder to Bagshot Park. Inside, a formal request that a senior royal represent His Majesty at the 30th anniversary commemoration for the 1995 Srebrenica genocide. The invite was more than ceremonial, it came laced with diplomatic fragility. Bosnia and Herzegovina remains a patchwork of unresolved anguish. 8,372 men and boys murdered in a UN-safe area, thousands still unaccounted for, mass graves still exhumed each summer. Whitehall understood the optics. A high-profile Windsor presence would signal Britain's renewed commitment to truth-telling and reconciliation. King Charles III wished to go himself. Dozens of times during his Prince of Wales years he had studied Balkan architecture, donated to post-war restorations, even learned snatches of Serbo-Croat. But oncologists had ring-fenced his diary, long flights, crowded reception halls and emotional strain were off the table. So the monarch looked to the family member most trusted to carry gravitas, without grandeur, and someone with a proven record addressing gender-based violence. Enter Sophie, the Duchess who refuses to phone it in. To grasp why the Duchess's presence mattered, rewind to 2019. She was visiting a UN camp in South Sudan when an adolescent survivor of wartime rape gripped her hand and whispered, "Will anyone remember us in 30 years?" Sophie promised on the spot that she would spend the rest of her public life making sure the world did. The pledge morphed into a personal portfolio, the Preventing Sexual Violence in Conflict Initiative, the International Action Against Stigma Network, midnight briefings with Foreign Service medics. When aides floated the idea of a Balkan genocide anniversary, she didn't flinch. She asked for an unfiltered briefing pack, and insisted on reading tribunal judgments cover to cover. Ceremony in the crosswinds of Westminster. On the day itself, Westminster buzzed with contradictions. Tourist buses shunted past the cenotaph. Protesters draped Palestinian flags over traffic lights. In New Palace Yard, MPs stumbled out of a summer recess drinks party. Into this cacophony swept Sophie, dressed in deep navy crepe, neither black with mourning nor pastel with platitude. Pinned to her lapel, a discreet white lily, the Bosniak symbol of innocence lost. Alongside her stood a constellation of heavyweights, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk, families of the missing chairwoman Sabina Hadji, and the United Kingdom's own Baroness Helena Kennedy KC, who had prosecuted crimes against humanity in The Hague. Each carried a folder of prepared remarks. Sophie did not. She would speak only once, later, and off-script. First came the reading of the names, 200 newly identified this year alone, their remains pieced together bone by bone in cold laboratories. When the roll reached Admir Suljic, aged 14, Sophie's chin dropped. Later she confessed she had momentarily pictured her son James, born the same year Admir was unearthed from a secondary grave. A monarch's message, a daughter-in-law's voice. At 11:48 a.m. precisely, an equerry unfolded a letter embossed with the cipher C3R. The Duchess approached the lectern, her voice steadied by raw purpose. "I speak today with regret that His Majesty cannot be present, and with a heart heavy yet hopeful. 30 years have not erased the names we just heard, nor the ache of those who still wait for answers. His Majesty asks me to remind you that memory is a duty, not a luxury." She paused, longer than protocol allows, and let the hush settle. Then she added a line not included in the palace draft. And may we have the courage, each in our vocation, to confront silence where silence protects wrong. Veteran correspondents tweeted the phrase before she stepped away. Within minutes it trended under #confront silence. Behind the cameras, a private pilgrimage. Official coverage ended there, but royal protection officers later confirmed that Sophie requested a detour on her return to Buckingham Palace. The convoy rerouted to a quiet North London warehouse run by the International Commission on Missing Persons. Inside, forensic anthropologists catalogue fragments from Bosnian graves. No camera crews were allowed. Witnesses say the Duchess slipped on lab gloves, touched a single tagged femur through its archival bag, and stood motionless for nearly a minute. Afterward she asked, how many families could go home sooner if nations shared their DNA databases? Palace reaction, and the photograph that froze a scroll. That evening, Buckingham Palace released 3 images. Sophie lighting a candle, Sophie bowing before the memorial stone, Sophie mid-tear. But it was the accompanying statement that vibrated through Fleet Street. Only by learning from the past does it become possible to share in each other's loss and look to the future. Only by working together to find the missing can there be closure for those still seeking answers. Observers noted the shift from the usual thoughts and prayers template. This was a policy nudge, a royal urging governments to data share, fund excavations, accept uncomfortable histories. In other words, remembrance with teeth. Sympathy ripples, and political undercurrents. The picture of Sophie's tear landed on front pages from Sarajevo to Sydney and invoked surprisingly bipartisan praise at Westminster. Labour MP Jess Phillips tweeted, "Compassion isn't weakness. Thank you, Her Royal Highness, for naming the unspeakable." Former Conservative Foreign Secretary William Hague called the gesture, "soft power at its finest," precisely what the Crown can do that Whitehall sometimes cannot. But not everyone applauded. Certain backbenchers grumbled that a royal consort nudging international cooperation tiptoed toward policy advocacy. Privately, Foreign Office mandarins shrugged. If her words prod a few neighbors to release DNA logs, that's a diplomatic win. Echoes inside the family. Across the Thames, Queen Camilla, whose own cadence of engagements had just been trimmed, watched the evening broadcasts in silence. Those who know her say she respected the gravity of Sophie's task yet felt a prickle of envy at the surge of public admiration. King Charles, still pacing the study during steroid-induced insomnia, reportedly dictated a personal note, "Thank you for embodying our purpose with dignity and steel." Princess Catherine texted a single emoji, a white heart, followed by, "Proud of you." The two women have long shared a pact to distribute grueling overseas trips and sensitive home soil assignments. Insiders predict Catherine will likely accompany survivors to The Hague next spring, completing what Sophie began. What comes next? Action, not oratory. Sophie has already signaled that the commemoration must translate into concrete steps. Her private secretary has booked a September visit to the ICMP headquarters in The Hague. She wants an update on algorithmic cross-matching of bone fragments, the science of restoring identity, she calls it, and plans to bring donors from 5 Commonwealth nations. Meanwhile, the King's Office is drafting letters urging Western Balkan leaders to ratify protocols that grant families free access to military archives. For the survivors, these gestures matter. Nirmana Pajata, who lost her father and 2 brothers, told the BBC, "It helps when powerful people refuse to forget us. It helps more when they use that power to open doors." Why this moment resonates, especially for viewers over 55. Our community of seasoned viewers understands that time alone does not heal wounds, acknowledgment does. Many of you remember where you were when war seized the Balkans, just as you remember Rwanda, Darfur, Ukraine. Seeing a royal of Sophie's stature visibly shaken may echo your own buried shock, but it also proves that even institutions built on protocol can pulse with human feeling. Your voice. Were you watching the nightly news when Srebrenica first entered global vocabulary? Do you believe high-profile remembrance accelerates justice, or do actions speak louder than ceremonies? Share your stories, your worries, your hopes below. Let's keep the dialogue alive, because silence, as the Duchess reminded us, protects only the perpetrators. And if you want to follow every twist of royal duty, from solemn reflection to spirited outreach, tap the subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and journey with us. In a world hungry for empathy, each of us can carry a fragment of memory forward.